Alright, so this video is going to cover the SSR board that we designed and built. So why did we need it? We needed it because we wanted to control our heaters and other devices that we wanted to run on 240 volt AC from our Duet 3 control board. And so we needed a way to do that. We needed an elegant way to do it, a way that would fit into our control enclosure. And so we decided to go ahead and design a board and get that board manufactured and then get it in and assemble all the components onto it and test it. And that is exactly what we did. So here you can see we designed the board in Fusion 360 and we had it produced. This board has three 10 amp 100 to 240 volt AC SSRs. That's solid state relays, and it has four 3 amp 100 to 240 volt AC SSRs, and all of that is controlled by the Duet 3 control board. The 240 volt is delivered to the board and then is distributed to each one of the SSRs, and those SSRs are controlled by an input signal from the Duet 3, and that input signal is filtered through an opto isolator, and that's what actually controls the flow of the 240 volt AC through the SSR. Alright, before we go any further, I want to discuss electrostatic sensitive devices. And this pretty much includes most all electronic devices. And so when you handle these devices, you need to take certain precautions. And I'm going to go over those precautions with you and show you what we did to kind of mitigate the risk of damaging any electronic devices that we're handling. The first thing I would do is set up an electrostatic sensitive device workstation wherever you're doing this work, whether it's in your garage or your basement or wherever, and that begins with a good ground. And so I actually put in a separate ground rod in my garage, separate from the ground rod that's used to supply electrical power to my garage. So I put in a separate ground rod and I ran a number 10 green ground wire to the station in my garage. Alright, so that ground, that number 10 ground runs to a distribution lug in my garage, and from there it is set to my ESD mat and my ESD wrist strap, and you'll see a picture of those here in a minute. Alright, so this is a ESD grounding wristband, and it's like a watch band, and it connects you to the ground, and it helps dissipate any static charge that's present in you, your clothing, or anything around you. Alright, so this is my ESD workstation, and as you can see, there's the ESD wristband, and it's connected to the ground. And the blue mat you see there, that's not actually the table, that's an ESD mat, and it's also got a connection point on it, and it connects directly to ground also. So that way any items that you place on the workbench is grounded, and the mat actually has a resistance to it, and it's meant to absorb the static and dissipate it. So you really need these protections if you're going to work extensively with electronic devices. So as you can see here in this photograph, this is Emerson. She's getting ready to solder up a board, and as you can see, she has her ESD strap on and she has an ESD smock on, and once again the smock's job is to help dissipate static that may be present in Emerson's clothing and anywhere around her. All right, so let's get started. Here we have some of the boards, and we have the 3 amp SSR, and we have the terminal connections that will be soldered into the board that allows us to connect our control wiring to the board. And that's what you're going to see Emerson and Grace solder on the board. Alright, here we go. This is actually Grace and Emerson's first attempt at soldering components on a circuit board. So this is a pretty good learning experience for them. As you can see, Grace here, she's practicing proper ESD control. And we're positioning the terminal blocks on the board now, and Grace is just going to start soldering them on. Alright, so here I'm just going to give Grace a little help, show her how to solder on those really small pads, and I'm going to let her continue. Alright, so Emerson's going to sit down and take over, and she's strapped into the ESD station, and she's going to put on the other PCB terminal block, and here we go. Alright, so we're going to do a little rework here. Use a desoldering bulb and suck off a little extra solder off of a pad. Alright, we're going to start inserting some components and soldering those guys on. And they're going to be resistors at this point. Alright, Emerson here is admiring her handiwork. She's got the board assembled, and now she's placing it onto the enclosure card. And that enclosure card is actually a piece of ABS ESD printed on our Mega X 3D printer. So it's part of our control enclosure, which most of it is actually made out of ABS ESD. And so she's assembling that to the card right now, and that will be assembled into the control enclosure. Alright, so here you can see our control enclosure from the back, and you can see that the SSR board is installed, and right to the left of it is a Duet 3 control. Right to the right of it is a 24-volt power supply, and right to the right of the power supply, as you can see, is our circuit protection. And we're using Type CC fast-acting 10-amp fuses, and those are recommended to protect SSRs like the ones we have installed. So this is our, I'm not going to say our finished build, but it's definitely our prototype build, and we're working off of it right now.